The specific piercings that I got are inner labes. A lot of trans masculine people will get these piercings and get them done at a large gauge and wear big heavy jewelry in it, and it can emulate balls.
Sissy did make me trans. I mean, this is not LGBT, so can we stop acting like it is? At the center of a sissy lies the asshole, a kind of universal vagina through which femaleness can always be accessed, distilling the femaleness to its barest essentials, an open mouth, an expectant blank eyes. Welcome back to your favorite non-leftist lesbians YouTube channel. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe so you do not miss the video I post every week, sometimes twice a week. And I can't believe it's 2023 and I have to say this, but fetishes and being same-sex attracted or having gender dysphoria are not the same thing. Fetishes are not inherently LGBT. So why are we acting like it is? We're seeing more and more people calling themselves queer for simply doing body modifications, for coloring their hair, for having fetishes, for being polyamorous. None of those things are actually queer. Being queer has basically turned into anything other than traditional gender norms. I saw my friends over at Trigonometry interview a woman that I follow named Helen Joyce on the topic of why transgenderism or being trans is exploding, and I could not agree more.
And so, you know, in the 70s and 80s, there were these prospective studies where they identified little boys who said ardently that they thought they were meant to be little girls. And they followed them into adulthood, and what they were was gay. Because there's a strong, very strong link between being really highly gender non-conforming in childhood, early childhood, and growing up to be gay. So those kids, they look around them. They're not born thinking I was meant to be a girl or I was meant to be a boy. They look around them and they think, why am I so different? It's funny how you see the differences between men and women more clearly when you look at men and women who don't want to be men and women. So, I mean, by and large, the women who transition are lesbian, if they're adults, or they're teenage girls who are going through adolescence and finding it tough. You look online and you say, why do I feel so uncomfortable with my body? Why do I feel uncomfortable being me? And the answer you'll get is trans. Now, that wasn't true 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you got better advice. But now the advice is if you think you may be trans, you probably are. And then the adult men, I mean, you know, the fact is probably 3 to 5% of men are erotic cross-dressers to inhabit the role of a woman. You know, you would have kept that at the weekend and cross-dressing parties.
She also goes on to say that what used to go on behind closed doors is now out in public. It is being called, in Odin's men's terms, stunning and brave, which of course in turn gets more people to be more open and public about it. And the majority of these types of people are probably attention-seeking hoes, which fine, but you are not LGBT. Kink is not LGBT. Straight people can be kinky. Straight people can be into kink. Piercings and body modifications, also not LGBT. Straight people can do body modifications on themselves, get piercings and tattoos. Why are people conflating? What's not people? Why are leftists, woke people, white people that are coloring their hair calling themselves queer when clearly they are not?
Totally, yeah. Technically a gender affirming piercing can be any piercing that you get that affirms your gender. Think of, you know, earlobe piercings for women. But when a lot of people say this term, they're referring specifically to piercings that help with bottom dysphoria for trans people. The specific piercings that I got are inner labes. A lot of trans masculine people will get these piercings and get them done at a large gauge and wear big heavy jewelry in it, and it can emulate balls. And when you're wearing this type of jewelry and these piercings, it can affect the way that you have to sit and stand and walk in a way that makes your body language appear more masculine. A lot of people also just find it really affirming to have that physical weight there.
So because of how uncomfortable you are, because you are piercing the skin down there, that's masculine, that's walking more masculine because of the pain and discomfort that you're feeling. Yeah, okay. Should we really be promoting this to people when you obviously have the risk of infection, there's the pain, the healing time, all sorts of complications can happen, scarring, and you really should, you know, speak to a professional before you do this. While you're at it, get a referral to see a psychologist, because I think that's what the real issue here is.
But the reason I bring this up is because of something my friend Buck Angel said a few years ago, I think it was 2 years ago when we filmed in Austin, when he said he believes that body modification, the body modification movement has taken over transgenderism.
I don't relate to any of what is happening right now. Transitioning saved my life. It saves the life of many of us who are actually really gender dysphoric, real transsexual people, and it's why people need to see me as different than that.
Yes.
Because this is some kind of body modification movement. All the piercing,
yes,
the ripping of the earlobes, all of the things that these people do.
And they're just calling it trans now.
That's right. They don't want to transition.
Kink is not LGBT. Body modification identification is not transgender. And because of all of this stunning and brave coming outness, we have adult people identifying as babies, getting blamed for being pedophiles. I do not think the two are the same thing, but it is a strange fetish, I will say. For me, again, this is the same thing that I've been saying the entire video. Kink is not LGBT. Kink is not a sexual orientation. It's a kink. It might be weird to some people, but it's kink. Having a kink for being an adult wearing diapers does not mean you are sexually attracted to children, in the same way that getting a piercing or a body modification or whatever have you is not the same as being same-sex attracted. Can the two sometimes intertwine? Of course, but is it necessarily always the case? No. I know I'm gonna get shit for saying that, but it's the truth. This person in this news article was enjoying themselves a little too much. Side note, but also related to this story, if you are trying to integrate into society, or as in this case, a sorority, as a woman, maybe don't walk around with a visible erection, no matter how small your dick might be. It's probably pretty small in this case, I'm just saying. Sorority sisters file lawsuit against Kappa Kappa Gamma for allowing 6'2" trans-identified male with visible erections for entering into their Wyoming sorority. This is exactly what I would think this type of person would look like, just saying. The girls allege that Artemis Langford, whatever, a horrible name, a 6'2" biological male weighing 260 pounds, has had visible erections through his leggings and repeatedly questioned the women about what vaginas look like, breast cup size, whether women were considering a breast reduction, and birth control. No. I don't even ask my friends as a woman what their vaginas look like. No woman does that. And let me be specific here. I'm gonna keep with the consistency. Just as being into a fetish does not mean that you're LGBT, just as being into diaper play does not mean you're a pedophile, being trans does not mean you're a creep, being a creep means you're being a creep. And in this case, bro, you're being a creep. I'ma call it out. According to the court documents, this supposed trans woman has not tried to present in any way as a woman. And the reason I bring this up is because even though I know that these types of people aren't LGBT necessarily, doesn't mean that society at large won't lump us all together. I mean, this just happened in Canada a few weeks ago. Muslim Canadians have been teaching their kids to stomp on LGBT pride flags, chanting "leave our kids alone." And honestly, can you blame them for this? Ben Shapiro had a great take on this on Twitter, and he said, "This has been the lie for 2 generations, and the lie being, all we want is the right to visit our partners in the hospital, and the deliverable is the radical overthrow of traditional gender norms and the celebration of perversity." I would like to say this in response to that. I understand why people are coming to this conclusion, of course. I would also like to say that those types of people, more often than not, are not actually LGBT. They are predatory, kinky, creepy, whatever, but they're probably not LGBT. Somebody responded to Ben's tweet and said, "Gay men should be very careful working with social conservatives. Most of them still don't like us and make no distinction between us and the so-called trans and queer people. We agree with them on protecting women and children, but they still view us as degenerates." I do disagree with Ben's take, but like I said, can you blame people for coming to this conclusion? Right? But at the same time, and let's be real, would it be fair if conservatives lumped all black people, example, the Black Lives Matter people, looters, black people that are racist towards whites, if all black people were lumped under that one type of black person, I don't know, quote, black person, everybody would have an issue with that on the conservative side, right? Why do we feel like it's okay for them to do the same to LGBT people? In last week's video, I did my best to explain why LGB and some T people are doing their best to distance themselves from the Q+ or the radical TQ+. Again, actual transgender people are not the same as trans activists or queer bullshit. We are clearly not the same, and this is why we are doing our best to put a border between the two groups.
Parents angry at town hall over intolerance at Marshall Simons Middle School. Kids were asked to wear rainbow clothes in honor of Pride Spirit Day, but some organized a counter-protest wearing red, white, and blue or black. The principal sharing a statement to families that Pride posters were ripped down, stickers ripped up. Some students chanted "USA are my pronouns," and students showing pride were intimidated.
USA.
And students showing pride were intimidated.
It was an unruly disruption, in fact, that was organized ahead of time.
Unruly disruption organized ahead of time. Did she not just describe the whole Pride Spirit Day? You're in school. It's not a time to discuss or to celebrate who you or someone else wants to sleep with. It's time to go to algebra class. It's time to go to physics. It's time to go to English. It's time to learn how to read and write. It's not time to discuss sex toys, which is happening in public schools. It is not time to discuss, again, who people want to sleep with. What about parental rights?
How about not forcing kids to wear a rainbow something or other? This might be a really great start into getting people to hate us again. That's exactly what it's doing. And it really is a shame to witness, because after all the years of progress, after all the videos people like me have made, after all the marching and actual issues we've had to fight against, we've come to this.
Some of the kids threw the stickers on the ground, but you know, I can only speak for my daughter. She didn't want to wear that to school. It's not that she wanted to hurt anybody's feelings.
She says her daughter felt coerced to participate in the Pride event and was offended by some of the messages, like this quote from Tennessee Williams.
Human heart cannot be straight. It is curves and winds. And my daughter just kind of said, you know, Mom, that's offensive to me, who I am straight.
Girl, let me just tell you, as a lesbian, I completely agree with your daughter. Good for her for standing up for herself.
I'm not saying that LGBT students can't be LGBT. Everybody deserves to be respected, but not everybody deserves to be celebrated. You shouldn't have to celebrate LGBTQ. You shouldn't have to wear a pride rainbow, whatever. Because again, if you're really trying to be respectful, you would respect other people's cultures, other people's religions, and let it be, right? No one has to be bombarded with rainbow flags. True inclusivity and true diversity would mean you would have all these students with different cultures, different backgrounds, different religions, different sexualities, yes, different gender identities, and everybody would feel respected.
I thought that we could not choose to be gay. Same thing with being straight. Stop hating on straight people. This meme, love it. Over and over, we are seeing far leftists blame people on the right. No, you did this to yourself. You did this. You pushed too far. We warned you. You called us bigots. You kept your narcissistic ways, and look where we are now. Most Republican voters now believe same-sex relationships are immoral. You did this. Not you people watching, of course, but the people that used to watch me that don't watch me anymore. You did this.
Protect our children! Protect our children!
I doubt that this was the fact that gays were peacefully existing before. I doubt that it was a little lesbian relationship YouTube channel that blew up in 2010. Someone posted this today, and I think this might be the dumbest take I've seen in a while. They said, ever notice that the conservative Christian push against LGBTQ people is focused disproportionately on gay men and trans women? It has nothing to do with sex. It's rooted in their feelings towards females. There's nothing worse than a man who presents feminine traits. It erodes power. Actually, I think conservatives are more focused on the rights and well-being of women and children, besides the abortion thing, today than a few years ago. And no, that's not why conservatives are upset with this thing. It's because males are creepy. Males tend to be more creepy. You don't see trans men up on stage with little boys and little girls doing a drag show, being sexual with them. We don't see lesbians being the ones that are getting spanked during the pride parades with their hanging out. In my opinion, it has to do 100% with creep status and erasing sex-driven rights. Coming for the women and children, all of those things seem to be coming from the more male side of things. I'm just saying. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you enjoyed my commentary, please go and follow me on Locals and Rumble. I'll have the links in the description for you. I do Rumble live streams once a week, and I post content that you've never seen before over on my Locals page. I will see you guys back here next Sunday with a brand new video. Until then, I love you. I just